G'day, Ziggy D here with some Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls news for you guys today. Quite a lot of news actually. Patch 2.0.4 is now live and the patch notes have been released alongside of that. And quite a lot has changed, and a lot of it for the better. Blizzard has really shown through these patch notes and through what they've actually patched that they've really been listening to the community and the concerns and complaints they've had since the launch of Reaper of Souls. Now, Reaper of Souls is pretty damn amazing. I'm not afraid to say that. It's like a solid 9 out of 10 plus. But there's still like a lot of little things that people want fixed, and this addresses a lot of that, and also some of the bigger things like people feeling like Crusaders aren't quite strong enough. They certainly got a lot of buffs. So let's just jump straight into it. I'll give you guys a brief overview of the patch notes, the things that I think are important, and then also a few of the undocumented changes, and a few of the other changes that you guys should be aware of. So let's switch on over. Whip. There we go, perfect. That transition. So first up, I want to just point out that Blizzard have started adding in these philosophy sections into each of these. So I'm actually going to plus this out just so it's a bit easier for you guys to see. There we go. So they've added in these philosophy sections, which do a good job of covering each one of these. So for the different class changes, we can actually go through these, and I can talk about the implementation of these things a bit as well, based on my analysis of the patch. So for the Barbarian, many of the skills that spend Fury feel great, but when it comes to Fury generation, the single target options don't feel all that compelling. And this is a bit of a theme across all classes, I feel, and it's one of the reasons I especially don't like the melee classes. A lot of their sort of single target melee skills just feel a bit in Diablo. So to compensate for that, they've simply upped the damage, basically. You can see that things like Bash have had pretty big increases. You know, increases on the Clobber, so the stun chance has been increased on there. You know, Frenzy's had its weapon damage increased, so just the single target's becoming a bit more competitive. And with Reaper of Souls having lower mob density but higher difficulty and more rewarding mobs, increasing the strength of these single target skills feels like a pretty good change. So that should be pretty good. I'm not sure, I haven't played Barbarian yet in Reaper of Souls since launch, so I'm not sure how that feels, but if you're a Barbarian, let me know what you think about these changes, where you think they address some things, or whether there's any other Barbarian changes needed to be made. Crusader has received the most changes. As you can see, there's a lot of notes there. But the core of these, the single target wrath generators have had a similar sort of buff to Barbarians, so again, buffing their single target. You'll notice this is a bit of a theme throughout this patch as well. But more importantly, many of the Crusaders' Wrath spenders are below where they'd like to be, while Heaven's Fury, Fires of Heaven was overperforming. So that one skill has been nerfed. Heaven's Fury, Fires of Heaven has been nerfed. But the rest of the Wrath spenders have been buffed up pretty significantly. So that should be a pretty nice change, you know, bringing the one that was like crazy high back down to the rest and bringing the rest back up, which should make for a lot more Crusader viability, and also making him a bit more fun to play by making those Wrath spenders actually feel pretty oofy. Next up, Steed Charge was changed quite a bit. Cooldown and duration have both been reduced, but the idea being that you can use them more often, but overall the uptime of Steed Charge is a little bit higher than what it was. It doesn't break stuns anymore, but it can be used to break roots like Jailer and stuff like that. So instead, those of you Crusaders who are using Steed Charge as a way to break stuns, and like to mitigate stuns and things like that, then you want to be using instead Iron Skin or Akarat's Champion. Those are the skills now to use for that, and they've taken over the role. This isn't included in the patch notes, this is just something you might want to know about that. But if you guys want to read through all of the Crusader buffs, a lot of stuff was buffed. Let's just leave it down to that. Huge damage increases for a lot of things, like Divine Well, 14 to 80% weapon damage buff. Just like, that's a bit of the example. A lot of buffs here. Phalanx, 295 to 380. Bowman was increased from 85 to 160%. Really nice, big increases across the board for Crusader. Should bring him up from being considered to be like probably the bottom tier class before the patch, should be up in the middle with all of them now. And who knows, maybe we'll see if he ends up being as strong as Wizard. But moving on down, Demon Hunter has had its single targets. She's had her single target skills improved as well. So mostly this is Evasive Fire and Hungering Arrow. You can see the middle damage of Evasive Fire has been increased, and the side shot has been increased as well. And one of the runes has been buffed a little bit, and Hungering Arrow has had its damage increased as well. So these are pretty nice changes. And then the other one here is just the Sentry Guardian turrets now displays under toughness, so not too big of changes, but again, the single target buff skill's been buffed. Monk, no changes for Monk this patch. Blizzard feel that Monk are in a pretty good spot, but they're going to be keeping an eye on it. I know a few Monks feel like their class is feeling a little bit weak at this point, so maybe in the next patch, Monk might get a bit of attention. After this, or after all of these sort of patches settle in, and we see where things end up, if Monk feels a bit low, I imagine Blizzard will be taking a bit of a look at them. So Monks, don't despair too much if you're a bit sad about not getting any buffs this patch. We'll see how things play out, and Blizzard have kind of shown that they've been listening pretty strong. So if you do have some issues, make sure you voice them, on the forums, on Reddit, and things like that. Witch Doctor was lacking good options for when they were low on mana, so their active skills, their non-generator skills, basically the low mana cost ones, their primary skills, their left-click skills, have been buffed by quite a bit. So you'll see Poison Darts, Corpse Spiders, Firebombs, and then Haunt was also changed a bit as well to receive some more low mana options. So reduced mana cost from 200 to 50 for Haunt, so it's a good low mana cost option now, and this sort of buffs it up. Also a big increase in base damage, but over a longer period of time. So more making that in line with dot play style of the Witch Doctor. So it seems pretty cool. The Wizard had some Arcane, Frozen Orb, and Electrocutes fixes, and a few changes to its skills. No real significant buffs, but Teleport was actually buffed by quite a bit. The range of Teleport was buffed by a lot. So this means that although Wormhole had it does one less teleport now, max, so it's 3 instead of 4, I believe. The actual distance you can cover is much further, and also teleport was fixed to, like go up and down certain ledges and stuff where it couldn't before. So hopefully teleport should be a lot more useful for the Wizard now, which is pretty good news, I think. Improving those mobility skills should always be a priority, I think. I'd like to see more mobility skill improvements across the board for all classes. Though, I'll tell you what, with the Denetta's set, Demon Hunter's feeling pretty good right now. The Nephilim Obelisks now have a short cast time, just a quality of life. I know people were kind of sick of accidentally clicking that, and some of the zone layouts were buffed a bit as well. Here's where crafting starts to get, and not everything is listed in here, so I'll go through some of the other changes to crafting while we're reading out this section. But firstly, a lot of the level 70 crafter resets that required flawless royal gems, so this was like an extra $8 or $9 million per craft, because you had to craft those gems first, which was super expensive. Now only require Marquise gems. That's like a huge change. It's such a big cheapening of the cost of those recipes. So crafting those level 70 sets from the blacksmiths should now be much more viable, because they, basically cost like 9 million gold less. So pretty nice stuff. The drop rate of the unique legendary crafting materials has been buffed across the board. They said they were going to do this. We don't know the exact percentages. Hopefully they release this a little bit later. But the important thing to know here is that Reaper's Wraps, sorry, not Mangamore, Reaper's Wraps, the Reaper's Fear, has been buffed as well, has been fixed basically. I believe if we go down to monsters, the Killmouth, wait, here we go, where is it? Malthael is much more afraid and will consistently drop the Reaper's Fear legendary crafting material. So Reaper's Fear has been fixed, guys. Time to craft your Reaper's Wraps. And if you were wondering, I do have a guide to farming the Reaper's Wraps here, and you'll want to check that out. However, the checkpointing method just before Malthael, so basically you would grab the checkpoint, kill Malthael, grab the loot, teleport out and leave the game before the checkpoint refreshed, you would be able to just keep killing him over and over again. That has been fixed, so you now have to run the entire zone before Malthael, but hopefully with the improved drop rate, it's going to be much better to be able to get that Reaper's Fear and crafty Reaper's Wraps. So that's pretty good news. I've heard he's also dropping the braces you need as well, which is pretty cool as well. But otherwise, there's another braces farming method in this video. But the other thing is, we now know that higher torments increase the drop rate of these crafting materials. So you should try and kill Malthael on the highest difficulty for you that is possible. Like, try and do it on, a reasonable one that gives you a reasonable kill speed, but is, like torment or something if you can do torment. So I recommend trying to do that. Now, scrolling back through here, we have Death's Breaths are no longer required for the 61 to 70 rare crafting recipes. I know I was leveling a character just recently. I was wondering why Death's Breath was required for some low-level things that you couldn't really actually drop it for. Hopefully they've fixed a few more things that they haven't listed here, but pretty good stuff. Also, legendary shields have been fixed. They weren't providing the correct block amount. I know a lot of people have been wanting this to be fixed, so that's been fixed now. Crafting those shields is actually worth doing now. Otherwise, resplendent chests have been buffed, and as I mentioned, Malthael drop rate fixes. Follower relics won't drop with off stats, so I got I think I got a Enchantress item that had Dex on it, so I had to change that to Intelligence. That shouldn't happen anymore. Gloves of Worship have been fixed, so they don't have the 60-minute buffs on Empowered or Fleeting Shrines anymore, so it may be time to switch out of those. And if you've been farming for the Gloves of Worship, yeah, you may want to reconsider. They're not that great with only 10 minutes. They're still pretty decent, but not as insane as they were. Not build altering like they were. Next up we have, I think that's pretty much actually most of these ones. So now I can go on over to the undocumented changes which have been listed out here on Reddit. There's new Paragon portrait pictures. You can see some examples of which here by Alcazar with the different stars and stuff like that. So you'll be able to check whether you've got new Paragon portraits now after 100, which is pretty good news. Alcazar's 600, so that gives you an idea of something you can shoot for there with all of the stars. So many stars. Otherwise, we have, some little stuff like new gambling icon. Monster health bars now have commas. Crusader's Iron Maiden passive now grants significantly higher Thorns damage. This wasn't listed in the patch notes. And it appears to scale with Torment level as well, which is pretty interesting. We've just got some other quality of life improvements and things like that. This one is really big just here. I want to point this one out. Remove 50% crit hit damage cap on pets. Now, when I was thinking about creating a pure pet Demon Hunter build using the Sharpshooter passive earlier to maintain 100% crit chance without using any skills to proc the Sharpshooter reset, the only drawback to that was that pets can only get a maximum of 50% crit hit damage. Well, that's been removed. So pet builds for Demon Hunters should be really strong now. I still think you need like that Marauders set to make it good, but using like turrets and pets and things like that, they can actually crit and they can actually hurt with their crits now. So that's going to be a huge buff for pet builds in general. Basically any skill that gives you some form of pet or summon or something like that is going to be really, really strong now. So I think that's an awesome change, and we'll be able to play around with a lot more builds now. Basically, that's about that. Other nice Demon Hunter change was Twin Chakrams now go through most walls in the world. I use that skill a lot, so I'm really happy about that. When it gets like caught on a rock and doesn't kill enemies, then that's super annoying. But really nice stuff now. Some other fixes to like elite damage stacking and things like that, and just some other quality of life improvements. Pretty good stuff all around. Now the other thing I want to point out is Manglemore has been nerfed. Manglemore is no more. RIP. Rest in peace, Manglemore. So basically, if you kill him after getting the checkpoint, he won't drop any loot. He'll still spawn, and you can still like try and do it, but he just won't drop any loot after the first kill. So there's basically no point in doing him whatsoever now. So I've left the video up and changed it to be nerfed in 2.0.4, just so people know when they search for Manglemore farming. And as a little historical thing, goodbye, sir. You will be missed. Thank you for all of the legendaries. Actually, I won't really miss him that much. He wasn't that good. Like, doing that over and over again, not as fun as doing like Torment Rift farming. So onwards to Torment Rift farming. Oh yeah. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed the my summary. If you guys have any other questions about it, or just want to chat about your class buffs or things like that, or maybe some things you think they should address in a next patch, then feel free to put them in the comments below. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm Ziggy D, and thanks for watching.